So welcome back tuning into today's video. We're going to do the CFS 6 months look ahead for June, which will be taking us, can you believe this, to November. Virtually to the end of the year. How hard to believe, isn't it? We could already be talking about getting towards the end of 2014, but there we go, 6 months away, and we'll virtually be there. So you're going to have a look at the CFS version 2 700 millibar height anomalies, first of all, for the next 6 months. Then have a look at the corresponding temperature anomalies for the next 6 months, and then the corresponding precipitation anomalies. What you need to know about this, about the CFS version 2 model, is highly experimental. This is just for thumb. It's not to be relied upon in any way, really. The charts are there, so might as well use them, but please don't take this too seriously by any means. Before we get on with the CFS 6 months look ahead, though, I just want to talk about the advertising. There's video ads on my page, ZachGasWeathers.com, and if you hit play on the video ad, you'll be supporting GasWeathers.com. Thanks very much for doing that. There's a couple of very interesting charity video ads being run at the moment. One is for blind children, blind kids, and another one is for youth homelessness. Very important topics, important subjects. So if you do see those particular video ads, please play them, see what they're about. And of course the charity would love to get a donation, but you don't have to do that. But if you could afford a donation for those charities, they would love it if you click through to their websites and get some money. But you don't have to do that. But do please play the ad anyway, the ads, and see what the charities are doing. They're doing some fantastic work, particularly for the homeless and for blind kids. So thanks very much for doing that. The advertising pays for GasWeathers.com, so I couldn't have the website without the video ad. So thanks very much for playing and doing it. So let's get on with the 700 millibar height anomaly predictions for the next 6 months. We're going to start off with June first of all. We've just done the June month ahead forecast actually, so I don't want to dwell too much on what it's showing for June. You've already seen, so if you watch the June month ahead forecast, we've got a trough of low pressure in the Atlantic, quite a deep trough, and a strong ridge of high pressure up to the north. You can't see that all that well, but up over Scandinavia and over here there's quite a big ridge of high pressure. So we're sort of in a battleground type scenario. Really, we've got westerlies trying to come in around that trough, and we've got easterlies trying to come in around the ridge. It's which one has, I explained this in the June month ahead forecast, is which one has the deciding factor, really. That will be the deciding factor on whether we end up with an unsettled month or whether we end up with a settled month. I've gone in the June month ahead forecast for wetter than average in the south, drier than average in the north, and temperatures coming out above average. Have a look at the temperature and precipitation anomalies that go with that in a moment. Now let's have a look at July, and this is the 700 millibar height anomaly prediction for July. We've got a little bit of a ridge of high pressure down here in the Atlantic around the Azores, where it should be, of course. Also got that ridge from Scandinavia that appears to have dropped southwards now in towards central parts of Europe, and again you can see it over here. It's shifted south from Scandinavia a little bit, and it's sitting over Germany and Denmark. The trough has gone, so potentially that is a more settled scenario, because I think those two ridges of high pressure will probably get together actually and form a ridge over the country. So that could be a pretty good anomaly for July, although we could be getting niggled at by the jet stream, particularly up to the north-northwest. But on the basis of this, I think the jet stream is probably going to the northwest of the country. That's not bad an anomaly. Go have a look at the temperature and precipitation forecast in a moment. Now, this is a 700 millibar height anomaly for August, and you'll remember that very often the long-range models are going for a more unsettled type August. This isn't particularly unsettled this month, but what it is doing is taking the ridge out towards the northwest of the country. So the jet stream is probably going something like that. We don't see a trough there, but I think there would be a trough most likely. And I think with that ridge in that position, we're probably bringing the air down from that sort of direction. So potentially that is a cooler and more unsettled signal for August. We're losing the ridges to the east. We're losing the ridges around here. And we're shifting the ridges to here. So potentially that is a cooler and more sort of unsettled scenario, I think, for August. But it's not disastrous by any means. But I think compared to July particularly, that is a cooler situation. Now, as we move through to September, what we're finding for September is a ridge of high pressure at 700 millibars or above average heights, which extrapolates a ridge of high pressure building in across the country, so that's pretty decent for September. Often, and obviously September tends to be a very settled month, so if that's right, it would be no more than you tend to expect for September, but there it is. It looks like you're going for pretty decent September on the basis of that. Now look what happens as we get through to October. The ridge is really strengthening there through October. You won't be able to see the colours when I highlight it, but that is a very extensive ridge of high pressure setting up just there. Trough of low pressure is around Greenland. Of course, you expect that. It's cooling down rapidly in October across Greenland and the North Pole, so we've got a deep trough there. But that ridge is very strong that the CFS is indicating for October. So if that's right, well, I wouldn't necessarily say it's an Indian summer, but it's certainly a very dry signal for October on the basis of that. Anyway, again, we'll have a look at the temperature and precipitation forecast in a moment, but high pressure really holding sway as we get through to October. And then finally, as far as we go, and remember, of course, the further out we're going with this, the more unreliable it's getting. But as far as we go out for this month's update to November, it's turning much more unsettled. That ridge is very rapidly receding back in towards western parts of Russia, and it's low pressure in the Atlantic that's dominating the weather. That trough over Greenland, the low pressure over Greenland, breaks through in November, bringing unsettled Atlantic conditions in. And that is a westerly based month. We've got low pressure to the north around Greenland, to the north of Scotland, high pressure in the Azores. We've got a strong sort of jet stream coming through. So that's a classic sort of zonal westerly, probably mild, but potentially stormy signal and wet signal for November. So there are 700 millibar height anomaly predictions for the next 6 months. Let's see how the temperatures correspond with that. And let's start off with June. Here we go. For June, well, look how warm it's going to be across most of Europe and about ridge of high pressure sitting to the northeast. Very warm temperature anomalies up there. For us, we're near normal, but warmth is in the east, and I think once we get towards the end of the month, we will find we probably come out with a warmer than average June. That's what I've gone for in the month-ahead forecast. Cooler than average anomalies down there across Spain and Portugal, but most of Europe having a warm month of it. The July signal looks very similar actually for temperatures, not as extensive, not as extreme as we have in June, but nevertheless the warm anomalies are more or less in the same place. And again, on the sort of 700 millibar height anomaly prediction that we had a moment ago, which will have that ridge of high pressure extending in across the country, I would expect another warmer than average month, to be honest, for July. So although it shows average, I'd expect it to be warmer than average. Problems for August, as always, the signal goes completely across most of Europe. There's no real sign of anything particularly happening here in terms of temperature signal. This looks average, but I think with the high pressure setting up out here and the risk of winds coming down from this way, from the northwest, we could just about get our first cooler month on that sort of a setup anomaly as we go, pressure anomaly, as we go into August. So it's average signal there. I would speculate on the anomaly, pressure anomaly that CFS is predicting, we could go below average in August. But of course, this is a long way off then, as we're getting towards 3 months out. We're talking about quite a long way out. Going through to September, again, the model is going for an average month, but with a ridge of high pressure sitting over the country that we have on 700 millibar height anomaly, I would suspect it would be warmer than average. It's warmer than average through most of Scandinavia, and I expect that to extend in, actually, as we go through the course of September. Now, October's a little more difficult. The signal looks very strong for October to be warmer than average here across the British Isles, and most of Europe, of course, is warmer than average as well. Most of Northern Europe is warmer than average. You've got that huge area of high pressure sitting there at 700 millibars through October. What you have to question about that, of course, is that the night's getting much longer as we get through to October. So high pressure doesn't necessarily mean a warmer than average month in October. It depends exactly where that high pressure is sitting. That's what's critical about high pressure from October. It could well be warmer than average, but it really does depend on the exact position, because if it's in a position to pull winds very slightly from a northerly or northeasterly point, we're going to be at risk of night frost, particularly later on in the month. We may also be at risk of quite dense fog patches. So bit tricky actually for October, whether it will be warmer or colder than average. Very much reliant on the exact position. And then as we go through finally to November, it's showing average temperature anomalies for November, but with that westerly based month, again I would suspect it's a warmer than average month, because we've got a very zonal month, a zonal setup on the 700 millibar height anomaly prediction, with the low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south, bringing in the westerly winds. I would suspect there'd be very little frost, so that could be a warmer than average month in November. So many of these months that we're looking at do appear to be warmer than average. Just maybe August and perhaps October coming out on the cooler side. But with October, of course, it could be a very warm month as well. It just depends exactly, as I explained, where that high pressure is sitting. But not really much sign of anything particularly cool coming up over the next 6 months on the CFS version 2. Finally, having a look at the precipitation charts for the next 6 months, it's seeing a wetter than average month for June. That's a little bit worse than I was expecting. I thought it'd perhaps be drier in the north and wetter for England and Wales, but that's showing a wetter than average month for all parts of the country, but I'm not sure it's going to be quite that bad. For October, well, it looks around average actually, but July rather, it looks around average, but I expect with that high pressure extending in, we may just about get away with a drier than average month. For August, again, it looks average, although there is a very weak signal there for a slightly wetter than average month down across the southeast, interestingly. But with the anomaly that we saw for August, the winds are coming that way, so I would expect there'd probably be some sort of trough of low pressure around here, so it could be a wet month in August, a coolish, wettish sort of month. August rather. Got October on my mind, haven't I? As we go through to September, not surprisingly, with the high pressure building in, it's a dry signal there. I think that's right with that 700 millibar height anomaly prediction. I think we would have a drier than average month. Often we do in September. It is just about the driest month, I think, on average. It's between September and March, anyway, as to which of the driest month. I think it could be March, actually, but on average, September is a very, very dry month. October, obviously, is going to be an average month. We've got that huge area of high pressure sitting across northern Europe, so no surprises about that. And then for November, well, the signal in November does look near normal, but actually I think it could be wetter than average. You notice how wet it is across Greenland, Iceland, signal for wetter than average conditions weekly for Ireland, also for France, Spain and Portugal. I think once we actually get to it, if the anomaly came off, and I have to emphasise again, it's such a long way out, it's 6 months away, this is just for fun, but I would suspect we'd probably come out with a wetter than average month in November once it's all sort of averaged out, because it will be very westerly zonal base month. So that's it. That's the CFS 6 months look ahead for June. We'll do it all again in July. It basically looks like a very warm second half of the year coming up. We have a very warm first half of the year. There's no sign of anything really changing as we go through the second half of the year. So if these anomalies come off, I think we could just about be into the warmest year on record. That would be quite something if we did that, but it could be on the basis of these charts, because we've had a very warm first half of 2014. Looks like the second half could be pretty warm at times as well, but we may get a couple of cooler than average months, which could bring things down a little bit, perhaps. And we haven't got December there either, so big caveat about that. No sign of what's going on in December just yet. But that's it. That's the CFS 6 months. Look, I hope you found it interesting. It's just for fun. Don't take this too seriously. Charts are there. Might as well use them. But it's very unreliable at the best of times, the CFS model. So don't take it seriously. That's it for now. Hope you found the video interesting. Thanks for watching. Do it all again next month. And next month we'll be going out to December, can you believe? But that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.